Hi, and welcome to Earth, Family, and Culture. Today we're going to make New York style bagels. They're really easy and it's one of my favorite recipes to make. So come along with me. How good do those bagels look? I cannot wait to share this recipe with you guys. It's so easy and so delicious. These chewy bagels are one of our family's favorites, and I'm sure that you will love them as well. I am going to give you the recipe in the description below, but as of for right now, I'm just adding my bloomed yeast to my flour, and I'm adding the warm water to it along with 1.5 teaspoons of salt. I'm kind of bringing that mixture together so that I can turn it out onto the table so that I can knead it. This recipe is one of the most easy recipes that I've ever followed. It's a New York bagel recipe. I've kind of adapted it to my own recipe. I use bread flour in this recipe. You could use all-purpose flour if you wanted to. I've made it with whole wheat flour before. I've made it with semolina flour. I've made it with a combination of both, half and half. You can do inclusions if you want. Inclusions might be cinnamon raisin, blueberry, dried blueberries, dried cranberries. You can do a lot of different things. I'm just making a straight dough, and then I'm going to add toppings. So right now I'm just kneading the dough. It's very hydrated at the moment, and it needs to have some flour added to it. So I'm just going to add flour to it, kind of like about a tablespoon at a time. I don't want it to get too stiff because adding more water at this point is more difficult than adding flour. So I just want to add a little bit of flour at a time, just till it gets to a little bit firmer and a little easier for me to knead. So I'm going to knead the dough for about 10 minutes. I usually use a stand mixer, but today I felt like doing a hand kneading because not everybody has a stand mixer, and sometimes you need to feel the dough to know what's happening with the dough. So today I just felt like feeling dough and playing with it and kneading it. So that's what I'm doing. And this dough was really fun to work with. I got my arm workout for the day. So we're going to knead it for a few more minutes, and then we're going to let it rest. So this is the final product. I'm going to put it in the bowl and let it rest. I don't ever put oil on top or on the bottom of my dough. I find that just a towel on top. If you feel like your dough gets too dry, you can put a damp towel on top. But okay, this is the final rest time. So it rested for an hour. And this is what the beautiful dough looks like. It's doubled in size. It's soft. It's poofy. And now we're going to take all the air out of it and push it down. Then we'll gather it up. I'm going to gather it up, turn it out onto the table, and we're going to divide it into 8 pieces. This will make 8 bagels, and they are decent sized bagels. I would say they're a good portion. I usually double the recipe and make 16 bagels, and then I put 8 of them in the freezer, or I put almost all of them in the freezer and then just take them out as I need them. I find that I do that with almost all my bread because I don't like stale bread, and you put all this effort into making bread and then it goes stale, and it makes me makes me feel bad. So I like to keep my bread fresh. So when I'm done with it, when it's all done, I put it in the freezer and then just take out as needed. You can microwave it for a few seconds and then cut it and put it in the toaster, or you can put it in the oven for a few minutes, and a hot oven for a few minutes, and it will be just like coming out straight out of the oven after you baked it. So I'm dividing it into 8 pieces, and then I'm going to form 8 balls of dough. As you know, bagels are round, so we need to make them into nice round balls. So now I have 8 pieces. I'm going to show you how I form the balls. I kind of use a pinching method with my thumb. As you can see, I'm kind of like pinching it with my thumb. I don't know if I'll bring it closer to the camera so you can see, but there you go. And I am pinching the dough to one side. And then at the bottom, I don't want to have it kind of open. I want it to be kind of closed. So I want one uniform ball. So I use my fingers to do that. I forgot that I did not oil my parchment paper, so I'm going to put a little oil on the parchment paper now and spread that out so that the dough does not stick to the parchment paper, because it will need to rest on there for a little bit of time before we put them in the boiling hot water. So I'm going to continue to make the balls of dough and put them onto the cookie sheet, the oiled parchment paper cookie sheet. The first time I ever made bagels, I think I was 14. I made cinnamon raisin bagels, and oh, here we go. Now we're gonna make the holes. So you take your finger and you flour it and you poke a hole and then you kind of stretch the dough out. I know it looks like a really big hole, but when it comes back, it kind of springs back. And then of course, when you put it in the water, it puffs up so that it doesn't really have that big of a hole in the end. But you do need to kind of stretch them to kind of make a bigger hole. So anyway, the first time I ever made bagels was when I was 14. My mom had the Joy of Cooking, I think it was called, and I like to try different recipes. I always like to cook. My first job when I was a teenager was as a dishwasher at a golf and yacht club, and I liked to watch the chefs make different things, and I like to experiment by trying new things. I still do that today. My husband says, "Can you make me this?" And I say, "Yeah, sure, I can make anything." So that's kind of what I like to do. I like to experiment and try new things. So now I have all of the dough is ready, and I've let it rest for about 10 minutes before while the water's boiling. So now the water's boiling, and I'm going to add the dough very gently into the boiling water so you don't burn yourself, and also so you don't deflate your bagels. And I'm going to let them cook for about 1 minute on each side. They get kind of poofy, and you kind of know when they're ready to be flipped, because there's yeast in there, so it when it hits heat, they expand. I was using a straw to flip them, you'll see, but it didn't really work that well, so I had to get a different utensil to flip them with. I thought it was going to be like, whoop, and they're done, but nope, it didn't work that good. So I got a different utensil to flip them with. Then do another minute on the other side. If you like them more chewy, you can do 2 minutes on each side. I usually do just about like a minute on each side. These are going to be so delicious when they're done. I don't like to overcrowd the pan. I put 3 at a time in because my pan is kind of small. But if you have a larger pan, you can do more. But they cook really fast, so don't overcrowd your pan. Okay, I prepared some everything bagel seasoning and an egg wash. I'm doing 4 everything bagel bagels, and then 4 just plain egg washed bagels. So I'm going to put egg wash on all the bagels, and the egg wash will help the everything bagel seasoning stick to the bagels that I'm putting the seasoning on. I love these silicone brushes. They're so convenient and so nice, and they're so easy to clean compared to like a regular bristle brush. Um, so if you don't have one, I highly advise getting one for your kitchen. Okay, now we're gonna dip them into the seasoning. I'm choosing to do everything bagel. I get it at Aldi. I think it's actually jalapeno everything bagel, so probably just myself will be eating these bagels because my husband doesn't like spice, and my kids, of course, don't like spice either. So, but I like this seasoning. I like to put it on everything. Other seasonings you could do poppy seeds, you can do sesame seeds, cinnamon and sugar. Um, there's a lot of different seasonings you could do for, or toppings that you could do for your bagels. These are kind of my go-to, is everything bagel and just plain. So now they're ready for the oven. They do expand in the oven a little bit more, so you don't want to have them too close together because they'll stick to each other. So just give them some space. And then you're going to put them in the oven at 450 degrees for 25 minutes. Okay, now it's taste test time, so let's open this baby up and see how she tastes. So first I'm going to cut it in half. Look at that inside. I'm going to put cream cheese on mine. I didn't toast it. Usually I would toast it, but they're still kind of warm. So, and they feel so soft. You guys, these are going to be so delicious. It's super chewy and delicious. You guys have to try this recipe. It's delicious. Make sure to try the recipe. Thanks for watching.